Folks, I know it's been a long day for you. And Lindsay is right. And it's not hyperbole to suggest that, you know, you can always tell, and you women who are in the workplace know this, you can tell the men who really respect you and believe you a total equal, if not a superior. I mean, am I joking? You can feel it. You know it. And I'll tell you now, I'll make you a bet. And I'm slipping into my violence against women passion, but take a look and I'll bet you every one of those men had a strong, independent mother or sister or grandmother or somebody raised them. And I've been really fortunate. I didn't plan on saying this, but my mother had a backbone like a ramrod. My deceased wife was fierce. Jill, you've seen how independent and committed she is. And I always kid, but it's true. Every brother should have a sister like I do. A hell of a lot better looking and a lot smarter. We went to the same university together. We used to be 3 years apart. Now we're 20 years apart. I don't know how the hell that happened. But she graduated with honors, and I graduated. It really is, and there's an expression, an old Chinese expression, that I think we're finally beginning to learn. I hope my colleagues in the Senate learn it in the next couple of days. And that is, women hold up half the sky. Women hold up half the sky. And I would argue it's the same thing in cancer research. 2 of the Nobel laureates on our committee are women out of the 4 that are involved. Some of the leading people in the country working on these issues are women. Look, folks, thanks again for joining us on this Biden Cancer Summit. In the final year of the Obama-Biden administration, President Obama put me in charge of this new initiative, which we called the Cancer Moonshot. And our stated goal was to double the rate of progress against cancer, to do in 5 years what otherwise would take a decade. And at that 2016 Cancer Summit we asked a lot of you to join us, not to talk about cancer, but to change the culture, break down the silos, so that instead of hoarding data and information in hospitals and research centers and individual docs, to share that research, break down the barriers, make it all available to all the best minds in the world to use to try to have greater prospects of finding therapies and cures, to launch new actions to support patients, putting patients at the center of our concern, and to improve the focus on prevention and make available mechanisms of detection, new mechanisms, finding new tools to find cancer early, because we all know the earlier it's found, the better the chance of survival. To help patients navigate the labyrinth that they have to negotiate to get through the treatments and follow-up care after their diagnosis. It's frightening. But to give millions of people hope, not hope in the abstract, but real hope for more days, for more months, for more years, even for cures. And the country's response was overwhelming. Like today, we attracted some of the leading oncologists, scientists, researchers in the world who are devoting their lives to finding answers to these questions. So we started off with 7,000 people 2 years ago, attending 270 events, with the locus being Howard University, but 200 some events around the country. And I believe that the result was that we, the Cancer Moonshot, went from a goal, as I said this morning, to a national, international movement. I really mean that. It's been 2 years since we held that summit, and something remarkable has happened in my life and in Jill's life. Jill's been an educator her whole life. I joke with her, teaching is not what she does, it's who she is. But she and I've been in public life since I've been elected official, since I've been 26 years of age. And up to now, when people have importuned us at the diner, the grocery store, the train, in another city or country, they've tended to ask us about what we have been engaged in all of our lives. Her about education and opportunities, me about foreign policy or constitutional issues or women's rights, the things that I've been engaged in. And, but something's changed. It was only late in my career, to be exact 4 years ago, when our beautiful son, Beau, was diagnosed with a death sentence of stage 4 glioblastoma, that she and I got deeply involved with cancer. Because, like for many of you, it had such a profound impact on my family. And whereas in the first years of my career, people would want to talk to me about everything from civil rights to human rights, to the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, that's when I'd be grabbed at the airport or walking down the street. Now, everywhere I go, and this is not hyperbole, everywhere I go, no matter what country I am in, whether I'm at an airport, shopping at a mall with my grandchildren, or meeting foreign leaders, as I recently did in Copenhagen, and dealing with what Putin is trying to do, undermining NATO. Almost the first thing everybody talks to me about, this is not hyperbole, almost everybody wants to talk about. First thing, can we talk about cancer? Can we talk about cancer? At the end of the administration, I was asked to meet with one of the Gulf country leaders who was the head of state. And we were sitting on the banks of the Persian Gulf under a tent because we were talking about Al Qaeda. And I had 6 of the brightest women and men in the administration on foreign policy, and he had his national security team. And before we began, this is the God's truth, he looked at me and he said, Mr. Vice President, before we begin, can we talk about cancer? Not a joke, because his family had been ravaged by cancer. MBZ, this is a leader of one of the countries. Toward the end of the administration, we had a summit on nuclear proliferation. The president headed 50 heads of state in the West Room, you know, the room where they have the balls. Great big giant rectangular tables put together around the outside. The president in front of the fireplace, me with my back to that magnificent formal hall. The president said, in deadly earnest, he said, ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, I know you all want to talk to Joe about cancer, but let's deal with nuclear proliferation first. Wasn't a joke. No one laughed. It's real. Now I ask myself, why? Why is this happening? But I think I figured it out. I think people know and feel in their bones for the first time there's been incredible progress made, that we reached an inflection point in this fight against cancer. As some of you heard me say before, it was only 5 years before my Beau was diagnosed I found out that there was immunotherapy wasn't viewed as a voodoo science. I mean, really and truly, it was not part of the equation. So many disciplines are being brought in, from Nobel laureates in chemical engineering, mechanical engineering, NASA, because they know more about radiation than any group of people in the world. So many disciplines, for the first time, working together. So I think folks know, they feel in their gut, we're on the cusp of so many breakthroughs that will cure some cancers, make others chronic, livable diseases rather than death warrants. But there's still, cancer patients and families are still experiencing bewilderment. The bewilderment of cancer, the bewilderment of being lost in the system, of being within reach of a therapy, but having it beyond their financial grasp. Feeling alone and isolated because they literally don't know how to get to their treatment and have someone take care of their child while they're there. And they talk to Jill, and they talk to me, and to many of you because they know we've been there. And we've had enormous help. We've gone through hell, but we've had each other and a big family and a lot of help. Think of all the people that get up every single day facing similar problems, and they put one foot in front of the other, and they go through the day. They need our help. We understand. We understand. You understand. But what's starting to happen is their stories are beginning to change. I'm beginning to hear from patients and caregivers that they feel hopeful for the first time, not alone for the first time. They feel like someone understands what they're facing, cares about them, is working to improve their lives. Not someone isn't just Jill and me, but it's all of you. It's all of you. Everyone facing cancer. The one thing they need is hope. Hope to take care of the healthy members of their family, let alone the ones suffering. Yes, we put out the call for new actions to make a decade of progress in 5 years. But you are here. You, the people, are here. You're the one that answered the call in numbers and with enthusiasm that we couldn't have expected. I said 2 years ago, 270 communities had satellite summits. Today, listening right now, 450 communities, every state in the nation. Anchorage, Alaska, to Little Rock, Arkansas. I'm not making these up. These are actually happening. North Dakota, Fargo, to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Augusta, Maine, to Albuquerque, New Mexico. In the San Joaquin Valley, I spoke to them this morning, there's a summit hosted by Congressman Jim Costa, attended by 400 people at the Clovis Medical Center. In New Haven, as we speak, two of my friends, Senator Richard Blumenthal and Chris Murphy, are at Yale University holding a summit. Congressman Carlo Gruber from Florida, the 26th District, Mario Diaz, Ballot in the 25th District in Florida, our Republican friends. Communities are stepping up to address whatever issues are important in that community for their own experiences dealing with cancer. This is the American spirit. It sounds corny, but this is the American spirit, addressing this deadly disease. Not by being afraid, but by saying at the Biden Cancer Initiative, we can be cancer fierce. And people feel it. They feel the movement to make progress. They feel the urgency of now. And it gives them hope, real hope. Whether you call it the Cancer Moonshot or the Biden Cancer Initiative, there are so many other initiatives around the country. The community is beginning to come together to improve outcomes. The idea is the same. Double our rate of progress in preventing, detecting, diagnosing, treating, and surviving cancer. As a result of the Moonshot Summit, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society started something called Beat AML Master Trial. They're getting patients' genome sequenced to understand their particular cancer, identify what drug or combination of drugs has the best chance to work for that patient. And they're now testing 9 drugs in about 200 patients. For 98% of the patients, they've offered a targeted treatment plan within 7 days of getting their genomic testing back. They know what you all know, that every day, every minute matters to these patients, the urgency of now. Out of the last summit, the Bristol Myers Squibb Foundation invested $25 million to expand community-based cancer care and support programs for racially and ethnic minorities, rural, low-income, and vulnerable populations. And 48 other initiatives occurred. And today, at our summit, you all explained and celebrated and listened to survivors and caregivers and doctors and nurses and researchers, scientists, by highlighting their stories and their courage so other people know what's going on, that there is somebody out there listening. But we're not just here to talk, we're here to act. And you have today. Our call to action has elicited more than 50 new actions and collaborations that are being announced today as part of the summit. You've heard from leadership of a number of organizations and companies talking about their announcements earlier today. But there were too many details to go into to be able to do it on stage. You can find all of them described in detail at bidencancer.org. But let me just tell you why these commitments matter so much. The commitments that companies and organizations have made here today will make real, practical differences in the lives of patients and their families. Think of an Oklahoma and Omaha, Nebraska. A mother diagnosed with advanced stage breast cancer. They find an experimental trial that holds immense potential, but it happens to be in New York City. Now, because of an outfit called Angel Flight, they can afford to get in a plane and make the trip without costing any money. You just never have to choose between paying for treatment and paying for your mortgage. Now, an outfit called Family Reach is going to allow you to forego 1 year's worth of mortgage payments while you're undergoing treatment. The peace of mind that that gives a family, and particularly the patient, if they're the breadwinner. And then they get to New York. Where are they going to stay? Well, Airbnb stepped up. They're going to make sure they have a place to stay during the treatment and to stay for free. And while they're there, transportation is a big practical issue. But Lyft and Uber are stepping up and making sure they can get to and from any and all of their appointments for free. And when they get back home, cancer support community gives them emotional, psychological, and financial support they need to get back on their feet. They're some of the commitments made today. They are life-changing occurrences. I've said it before. At the Biden Cancer Initiative, our focus is straightforward: to create cancer research and care system that most people think we already have, but we don't, but they deserve. And so all the 50 contributors a day, and I can't go into all of them, I say thank you. This is why we launched what we call SWAT teams, working groups, the world's leading experts. We set up an advisory committee in the Biden Cancer Initiative. And we went to these 25 experts, names, household names. Every one of you would know them and you're involved in the area. And I said, okay. My dad used to have an expression. He'd say, Joe, if everything's equally important to you, nothing's important to you. What are the priorities of all the areas we should be working on? What are the priorities? What should we be working on now that holds the most promise and will give us the biggest bang for the buck quickly? We didn't go to a lot of people like me who are no experts. We went to the leading experts in the world, several of whom were Nobel laureates. So they came along and they said, look, to speed up innovation and solutions, we need greater data sharing. And we need data standards that don't exist now to be able to easily share the data among all researchers. Instead of having one or two or three great minds looking at it, having 50 great minds looking at it. We need to improve and make more available clinical trials, saving people's lives, and allowing drug companies to run the trials, because in many trials they don't have enough patients who qualify. To those of you who know people who are fighting a pediatric cancer, like our host and hostess today talked about their niece, pediatric treatment development pipeline has been set up, which is new, to increase effective prevention and access to drugs and care, and to provide a roadmap for patient navigation, helping lead cancer patients through that maze that can lead to their survival. Our call for collaboration has been met by an overwhelming response from many of you in the audience, individuals as well as institutions, some of whom you've heard from today, offering inspiration, ideas, and ability to change the circumstance of people fighting this disease. But you all know better than I do, we can't claim victory until the solutions we're developing are standard, not the exception, until we change the things we cannot accept. We cannot accept disparity in outcomes based on race or gender or zip code. We cannot accept unaffordable treatments to drugs that can save people's lives. We cannot accept efforts to roll back the opportunity for all Americans to have affordable, meaningful health insurance. We can't accept business as usual practices in research and care when there's nothing usual about a cancer diagnosis. And so today, we've taken on these challenges and so much more. And we do it as a united community, because it's going to take all of us to deliver on the hope of millions of patients around the world. Folks, you know as well as I, you know in your gut, together we can continue to make significant progress. Together we can make hope real. I want to leave you with a story that I think symbolizes the difference we can make in the lives of patients if we just think a little differently. Some of you know at the northern end of the Outer Banks in North Carolina, the paved road gives way to a sandy beach just above the town of Corolla. I hope I pronounced that correctly. People who live in that part of the peninsula have to have 4x4s to reach their homes. The area is also the home of the famous wild horses of Corolla that were brought here in the 1500s by the Spaniards. Decades ago, to guarantee the security of those horses, a fence was built across the North Carolina-Virginia border out into the sea 100 yards to keep the wild horses in and to keep traffic out of that nature preserve and state park on the Virginia side. From that fence to the town of Chesapeake, Virginia, it's a 5 to 10 minute drive if you could go through. But you can't drive through. You must drive an hour south on the Outer Banks, cross over to the mainland, and drive back north another hour or so. So if you're a cancer patient living in the Outer Banks, every trip to the doctor in Chesapeake takes you 2 to 3 hours each way. But that's not the end of the story. The decision was made to give cancer patients undergoing treatment a key to the gate at the border fence between Virginia and North Carolina. The drive is now 10 minutes, not 2 to 3 hours. This is what we have to do. We have to give cancer patients keys to all the gates, the key to prevention through vaccines and healthy food and clean air and water, which we're denigrating today. Key to early detection through education and access. And the key to the right diagnosis the first time by sharing information about new understandings of cancer in all its forms. And the key to treatment by reducing geographical disparities and sharing outcome data. The key to access by designing systems that reward innovation but doesn't punish patients with high out-of-pocket costs. The key to hope. Because now, when I'm approached in a diner by a cancer patient, I can look them in the eye, and I mean this, and I can tell them the change is coming. But I see it every day in communities, research laboratories, hospitals, and most importantly, they extended lives and save lives. And we can make it come faster. And with your help, we are. So thank you. Thank you for answering our call to action and for what you do every single day for patients. From the bottom of my heart, on behalf of Jill and me and all of us involved, thank you, thank you, thank you. If my mom were here, she'd say, you're doing God's work. Thank you. It's been a good day.